Hey guys, welcome to the TSP Podcast, and today's guest is
Phil Warran from CMC Guitars and Effects.
What's up, Phil?
Not much, man. How you doing?
Pretty good. Let's get this started.
All right.
Join our challenges. The signal path.
All right, guys. Today I got with me Phil Warran with
CMC Guitars and Effects.
Yes. So, dude, I've been checking your stuff out, man. Like, you even had Andy from Pro Guitar and Reverb demo your tom pedal, and I was digging that demo. But I'm gonna let you introduce yourself to the guys here at the Signal Path if they don't already know who you are.
Yeah, I mean, for those who don't know, I am a pedal builder and guitar repair tech and builder. It's actually how I started, was building guitars, and then kind of segued into the pedal thing and felt like that was a little more fun, a little more productive. I mean, I still do lots of guitar repairs, but I don't really do much in the way of building anymore because it's just too much work and not enough payoff, to be honest. And I find the pedals are way more fun and leave me a lot more room for experimentation and getting weird with it, which is what I love. But so I build these guys. Is my big one right now, the Tom Triple Octave Manipulator. It's the signature pedal for Thomas Eric, the guitar player from the Fall of Troy and some other bands too, but that's how most people would know him. And he's been one of my favorite guitar players for years. So it's been pretty awesome to work with him on that.
Nice. Yeah, and I remember seeing your prototypes with the huge Vero board, and that was a ton of components. I was like, whoa, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot going on in the circuit, and I'm glad I'm not doing the Vero thing anymore. I mean, I still do it for like prototypes when I'm coming up with new ideas, but the first 16 or 17 of the Triple Octave Manipulator pedals I made were all on Vero, and that was a huge labor of love that I do not intend to go back to.
Cool, man. That thing sounds great. It's massive. It's been demoed even on TSP. I think you were on the Weird Challenge and also a couple of the other challenges when we did, like, I think even the phaser and other challenges. But how you been liking those so far?
They're a good time. I wish I had a little bit more time to get involved with them. I definitely did do the first, like the Let's Get Weird challenge, because I did it with the Tom and an Auto Wah Mutron pedal. And I did like a cover of a St. Vincent song, so that was fun. I think that's actually probably the only challenge I've personally recorded for. I've voted on a lot of them and like watched the videos, but I just haven't had the time to like really get into them the way I would love to. But hopefully, we'll get more of that time to do that kind of stuff too. But
Yeah. And honestly, like it's a lot to put those challenges together. I'm trying to first of all like garner everybody's spirit with the whole DIY recordings. And just to let everybody know, I've done every single one of them on an iPhone. So there should like be like no excuse for that. I think the biggest key is to get the time and maybe some of the context together. I know a lot of guys struggle or like I don't know what to record. And I was like, dude, I've winged every single one of these myself and just had a blast doing it. But even the editing, I'm trying to make sure I have everybody included. But that's kind of the biggest part of TSP is making sure that everybody's involved and having fun and having a blast. So we have the challenges, we have the polls, and I think you're starting to enjoy the podcast. You've been hitting me up all this last week about different topics. But honestly, I've been trying to do a little bit of a format, but kind of get started. Like what are some of your favorite amps and pedals and even guitars right now?
I mean, well, guitar wise, I'm not gonna say always, but for quite a while now, I've really made my focus, like old vintage Japanese stuff has really been my happy place. So it's kind of started with me finding that weird, I don't know if you saw, I posted that green Kimberly the other day. It was like that 4 pickups in this kind of like almost like vomit green color.
Yeah.
I think that started it for me, and that was like a lot of weird kitschy 60s stuff, which most of it really isn't that well made. They're just kind of cool looking and have their own like cool sounds.
The K, like Sears Roebucks and Tokai.
Yeah. Like the Tyscos and the there was a lot of other brands, but there was, a Teisco kind of gets all the fame, but there was a ton of different brands coming out of a bunch of different factories. They were all like, department store starter guitars. And so they weren't super well made they definitely weren't very well maintained over the years. So most of them are pretty beat at this point. But I think I found those and I just thought they were fun and did a lot of like restoring of those. So there's a lot of my early projects after I learned how to build and repair guitars are me restoring those beater old 60s.
Wow. And those necks were tough, man. Like they're really tough to play.
They're like boats. They're like bats. But I think over time I realized that those are cool and interesting and fun. But the really guitars I love are like the mid to late 70s and the early 80s stuff out of Japan. It's just some of the best guitars ever made.
So
do
you get into like the lawsuit era ones too, or?
I have definitely had some of those. I don't have any of like the actual lawsuit guitars, which were Ibanez Les Paul copies and SG copies, because they caught the lawsuit about the headstock shape and all that stuff. I don't actually own any of those just because I really only buy guitars like if something really speaks to me and I have the money and it's a good deal.
Yeah.
I've gone through a lot of guitars where I will buy it because I think I love it and then eventually realize it's not for me and flip it and, use that to buy the next one. I've done that so many times.
Yeah.
And at this point, I think I pretty much kind of have my collection at a pretty good, like where I'm not really buying any more guitars unless something just falls on my lap that's amazing.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of my guitars are like late 70s, early 80s Japanese stuff. Because they were just really, really well made and just way better than the stuff that was coming out of America at the time.
Is that the green guy like all the way in the back behind you, like in the rack over there? Or?
No, the green guy's been gone for years.
Okay.
It's one of those ones that like it was cool for what it was, but it's not like a super great guitar. And it was fun to restore it. I refret it and made it shine and sing again, and then sent it to a better home for someone who really wanted it.
Okay.
What is in the rack right now?
I don't know, but I'm gonna talk about it. I know we got the Zoom going on, but Phil's got a few things. Looks like he's got all his components and everything behind him too.
My Vantage 80s.
Is that Ibanez? Is that the Ibanez?
No, it's a Vantage. It's the
brand. Vantage. Yeah, Vantage. Yeah, I almost said Aria is my next guess.
Same factory, same era. These were ones were usually made for like Canada or England, but like same factory.
Yeah. What's the wood on that? It looks like a walnut or
what is that? It's walnut and I'm gonna say maple.
Yeah, it's definitely a maple all the way through the neck.
But it's definitely it's one of my favorite guitars. It's the one I've been using like almost exclusively for the last 3 or 4 months because I have so many guitars. I tend to pull them out like 2 at a time and like stick with just 2 for a few months.
What's that thing weigh?
Not that much, actually. It's it's definitely lighter than my Les Paul.
Yeah.
So if I had to guess, probably like 7-8 pounds.
Yeah. My neighbor's got a Aria 2 Pro bass with like the soap bar pickup and like this chicken head knob to change all the phases and everything. That thing weighs 18 pounds.
I don't doubt it.
It's like an oak slab.
Yeah, I have an Aria that's like somewhere between like a Strat and an SG in terms of like the body style, but it's a nice set neck guitar and it's incredibly heavy.
Yeah.
But it's like, I mean, the wood is definitely some of the weight, but it also has just like more electronics than you could ever need in a guitar. So that's probably a good chunk of the weight too. Like it's got, all kinds of switches for the phase and stuff like what you're saying with that with the bass, and it's got an active boost in it and a Veritone knob, and it's pretty dope. I should probably that's going to be one of the next guitars I pull out and rotate for a while because
cool, man.
Great, and it doesn't get enough love.
Yeah, probably if you could throw up some demos on TSP, we'll definitely enjoy your shenanigans there with them. So, but yeah, speaking of like I would say the Japan vintage and stuff like that. Weren't you sharing some vintage pedals? Didn't you have like this Guild Foxy Lady or something? You sent me this one time.
Yeah, I did. I actually, that one was just like dumb luck. I was on, Facebook Marketplace trolling for good deals and stuff like I often do. And a guy had this photo of like a pickup truck, just the back of it full of crap. And I spotted a Rockman X-100, which is like a little headphone amp from the 80s.
Yeah.
From Boston.
Yeah. Tom Schultz. Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually went for that. And when I got there, I saw the Foxy Lady and was like, boy, that looks an awful lot like an old Big Muff. I didn't really know much about it at the time, and I was like, I'll take that. He's like, yeah, neither of these work. I was like, $20. And so I bought both of them, not working, for $20. And then the Rockman I never really got going because it's a super duper deep complicated circuit. I ended up selling it to a guy that like professionally refurbishes them. So I made a little bit of money on that. But then I got the Foxy Lady, which is basically, it was a 1970 like V1 triangle muff that was made by EHX in their factory, but for Guild.
Oh wow.
So I got that working. I had a local guy build me a back for it because it was missing the back.
Yeah.
And then I let that go for a lot of money because
I hear you, dude.
It's cool, but I'm only like so much into the Big Muff stuff, and when there's money to be made, it's easier to make money than hold on to a pedal I'm not really gonna use.
Yeah, man. I got a few top shelf things, and like I even got this 741 chip 250 that I've been showing everybody. But man, the thing about vintage pedals, man, like I have to use a lot of deoxit to keep that guy alive. And I got to see some gut shots of that because you were trying to make an ad for it and sent me some photos, so I kind of went with it and gave you some adware for that. But I thought that was a fun little project to do.
That's one of my favorite things to do, is buy old broken stuff and make it not old and broken anymore. Well, still old, but not broken anymore. And if it's something I love, I keep it, and if it's something that I can live without, sell it and move on to the next thing.
Yeah, so speaking of something that's like Big Muff Pie, today's considered a Pie Day because it's the US date code is 314. I know all the guys overseas are like, you can't celebrate Pie Day because the dates are backwards. But for us, we did a Big Muff Pie challenge. I think you actually jumped in on that, to be honest, if I remember right, with the Kinetone.
I don't think I did, man. Like I said, I'm really pretty sure the only one I actually joined in on.
I'm pretty sure you did, because you just got it that day when we did that challenge. Do you remember?
I do remember getting it right around then, and I'm sure I posted some pictures and talked about it. I don't know if I actually recorded anything for it, but
it was a green Russian. It was a green Russian, wasn't
it? It's awesome. Yeah, it is a green Russian, and I had actually kind of been bugging Brian for about a year to do a mod on it for me because it wasn't one that he actually really did. He had mods worked out for the op amp one and I think maybe the triangle one or something like that. But basically I just bugged him until he was like, all right, fine. And I sent it to him, and I mean, it was already a pretty cool pedal, but it's just amazing now. It's all kinds of, it's much more versatile. It does the classic Big Muff Russian sound, but it does a lot of cool stuff with like different clipping options and some gate stuff that you can really hit that like gnarly Velcro fuzz and the rip speaker sound and all that stuff. And I can't say enough good things about Brian's work.
Yeah, dude, didn't you have like those DL4s and everything? You still got those, like the really big board? Or
I do still have the really big board. I actually just sold one of the DL4s he did for me because I was going to replace it with one of my DL4s that I did a mod on. And then I forgot to take that DL4 that I did the mod on off of Reverb. Somebody bought it.
Oh wow!
But that's okay because I still have two more on the board, and I still have a couple broken ones laying around that I'm gonna fix. And
yeah, so like you're talking about kind of the builder effect. Like you guys always like build some like kitschy cool stuff that just like, hey, you kind of build what you play. Am I right? Like,
yeah, I mean that's definitely how it started for me. I mean, well, really the building started for me with like just buying kits because I wanted to try it. But like once I got into getting past building kits and like coming up with my own stuff, it really was like, what do I want? What is not out there? And how can I make that a reality?
Yeah. And I thought that was a really great topic. And you were kind of touching points on it last week. I think even in the post and stuff that, coming up with circuits instead of just kind of building the kits and putting another clone out there, you were kind of giving a hot take that, it really takes a lot of guts to, to come up with something and kind of put it out there. Not to say that everybody's going to trample over it. I know that there's a lot of trolls online, but basically like with TSP, we're always an encouraging platform to make sure everybody's, at least heard. And I remember kind of the early builds for the Tom as well, being that huge Vera board and everything. A lot of guys is like, wow, that's a lot of components. So it kind of helps your story in a way. Like you kind of have a stage 1 and then a stage 2. Like you kind of know, okay, now I need an enclosure with graphics, and now I need to try to streamline this build. Maybe you can get a PCB that's already pre-made. And so, can you tell me a little bit about your journey a little bit with the pedal building?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, it definitely started with the kits, and then that was actually pretty disheartening because I biffed my first couple pretty bad, and they didn't really work very well, and I kind of shelved the whole idea for a couple of years, and then really when the first wave of like COVID happened, and I just had a lot of free time because I was furloughed, and I ran out of guitar projects, so I was like, well, let me revisit the pedals, and I got the ones that I biffed working, and that was like a nice feel good moment for me. Um, and then from there, I was like, like I don't really want to do the clone thing. I mean, it's fun, and sometimes I build clones just because there's a pedal I want that you can't buy without spending thousands of dollars, which is not in the budget at all. But from there, I was like, really, I want to come up with something. I want to do something that's my own thing, and like, what is it that I want that is not already out there? Which is really how the Tom was really kind of born. It really wasn't something I made for someone else or with someone else in mind. I was just like, hey, I want a pedal that does this. And it was really more an exercise in learning at first than anything. Because I just was like, well, let's try to build an octave pedal. So I went on a deep dive and read everything I could find about how to generate octaves up and down, all analog and stuff like that. Because digital, I would love to get into that realm eventually, but that's a whole other monster that I don't do.
Oh yeah.
Where you have to learn how to write code and do all this other crazy stuff that I'm just not there at all. But it's something I'd like to get into for sure one day.
Yeah, so like speaking of octave, did you try reading about like the Dan Armstrong Green Ringer and like the OC like two to five bosses and stuff like that? Like what got you into the octave realm, I would
Yeah,
say?
definitely. I mean, what got me going in that direction is just that I like octave effects, and I feel like there's one of those things that there's a lot of room to explore, and a lot of new and fun things that can be done with it that people haven't really gone down that hole yet. I mean, and I researched every analog octave pedal you can imagine, from the Green Ringer to do the ups to the Mutron Octavider to do the down stuff, and definitely the Boss OC2, the Pearl OC7, which is I think I posted that one the other day that I just scored one of those in real life.
Yeah.
And it has the box, which I thought was really cool. But I mean, I researched a ton of different circuits and kind of went, looking into different ways to approach the idea, and until I found what I thought was probably going to be the best way, and then kind of went from there. Definitely the Boss OC2 was a big influence, and so was that Pearl, which is very similar. It's not like a straight copy of the Boss OC2, but it's a very similar style of circuit. They achieved the octave down in the same basic electronics ideas, but then add an octave up to it, which is kind of the difference between the Pearl and the OC2.
Nice.
And then there's a handful of other ones, but it really just kind of started with that idea. And then
being a DoD fan, did you ever look at the Gonculator or Meatbox and that kind of thing?
A little bit here and there. They weren't quite my thing. Same thing with like the MXR Blue Box. Like that's kind of, it's cool for what it is, but it was never really my jam. I always thought it was a little too noisy and too ridiculous. Like, I mean, it definitely has its cool place in history, and like some people have done some cool stuff with it, but it's not at all what I was looking to do. But yeah, no, like I said, and if you can think of a analog octave pedal out there, I probably researched how it was designed and how it worked. And
there's a crazy one, like not the cheese ball, but the wobble thing that Dan Coggins made. What is the name of that thing? It's like a blue box or something, but it had like every ring mod or octave like built into it. Wobbletron or no, but
you might have stumped me. I don't know if I'm familiar with that.
I'm trying to remember because I seen it both on like the JHS show and TPS at one point, but this is like 2019 or so when I seen it. But it kind of went with that whole product line, like with the cheese ball and the other ones. But that thing was crazy too. But it's just like a top mount board, and the enclosure is like on the top side, and all the components sit underneath, and you kind of flip it up like a car hood. It's pretty cool looking enclosure too. But you got me going down the octave path myself, because for me, like the octave up, like I'm sure you've seen my Ecto 1, that one's built by Little River Customs. That's like my solo button. when I'm playing fuzz, and it's kind of like an external octave in a way, because I could use an overdrive and throw that octave on, or I could use a fuzz because it's like an independent octave up. And I've had a lot of fun with octaves as well, because it just really has a unique property. Like you said, it can gate, it could kind of make things poke through, especially like when you're playing with a band and in a live environment and you got cymbals going on. It really pokes through like the whole mix kind of thing. But to me, I call it the solo button because it's just fun. You kind of go ham on one every time you play an octave, I would say.
Yeah, I know the cymbals are your consummate enemy. I've heard you talk a lot about how much you have to battle the cymbals when you play in live.
Yeah.
I don't generally have that problem because I am pretty much live from the living room. I haven't been in an active band situation in many years, and I doubt I ever will be again. But I'm having a lot of fun in the living room, that's for sure.
I hear you, dude. So we talked guitars, we talked a little bit about pedals. You got any favorite amps that you run? Or
I have always really been like a clean Fender kind of guy. There's definitely some cool high gain amps out there and a lot of cool stuff going on, but for the most part I like a good clean, like maybe just on the verge of breakup or even lower than that. And then I get most of my dirt from pedals. I've played some good high gain amps, but nothing ever so that drove me like so much that I was like, that's what I have to have. So at home, I have like a tiny little practice amp that I keep in the office for testing pedals. And then like when I really want to play, I actually have a custom stereo head that I had made by a local guy. Big shout out to Scott at Show Amplification. He pretty much made me the amp of my dreams, or pretty close to it. I made a couple mistakes in telling him what I wanted, but that's not on him. That's my fault. I should have had him built an effects loop into it, but oh well, hindsight and all that. But it is an all tube 2-channel amp, and each channel is modeled after a deluxe reverb blackface era.
Ooh.
So it's just like basically two separate 15-watt amps in one head. But it's just like the reverb channel of a blackface deluxe reverb.
Oh wow.
And it's pretty awesome. And then I run that into a 212 Bandmaster cabinet that I have that I scored actually by trading an old vintage Univox pedal to somebody a couple years ago. And it's a nice original Bandmaster cabinet. The speakers were not in it, so I didn't really feel bad about doing some more modifications to it after that, because it wasn't really it's a really well-made cabinet, but it wasn't a truly original Bandmaster cabinet, so I didn't feel too bad about getting weird with it. And so I have that set up to either play in stereo, with each speaker being one side, or I can just run it in mono and then only use one of the amps at a time. But so that's really my happy place. A nice clean Fender style amp with a little bit of reverb. And then all my gain is pretty much from pedals, man.
All right. So that's amps, and I'm gonna let you pick one. We can either talk boutique versus standard equipment, or we could talk about analog versus digital.
I'm gonna go analog versus digital because I think both have their own merits and they're awesome. I'm not one of those like it has to be all analog snobs. I think some things are better analog, some things are better digital, and sometimes just digital is convenient. And you can't beat the lightweight, not having to lug 800 pounds of gear around. And just the convenience, man. Like when I want to record a quick demo, I just plug my guitar right into my phone, pull up a little effects boutique, good to go. It's beautiful. But,
yeah.
So I'm not really analog versus digital. I think they both have their own.
Merits, and that's kind of what I was going to get at, is that it's not really analog versus digital, it's analog and digital. And some of my favorite pedals now have an analog drive-through, and that's a really nice benefit. And I'm starting to see a lot of overdrives start to do a clean blend, and with the gain stage too. So it's like that's starting to become a norm with some pedals, is that you could put your dry mix back into the circuit, or you could dial it out instead of just having a pedal that just does flat out digital. You can actually put it back to a decent blend, and that's what I've been finding pretty cool. I just got that Alexander radical delay that I've been sharing, and that thing, there's so much in that little box. Like for a 1590B enclosure or whatever that is, it's just a regular size pedal with a ton of digital in it. and it's just it's got like rainbow machine to tape delays, everything. And I always need another delay. Right now I'm running 3 delays myself, so
Oh yeah, I as far as I'm concerned, one more delay is always the right number. And I will say delay is one of the things that I think is just better digital. And for all the people that are chasing that like warm tape analog sound, like I think they got it already, man. I think, digital delay has come a super long way in the last 20 years. I don't think there's a tape delay out there that they can't just get a good version of on digital. Like,
yeah,
even like the DL4, which at this point is 22, 23 years old, they were pretty
yeah,
good at that one. But if you get like a modern, like a Strymon or even the TC ones, the TC delays, the flashback and stuff like that, I mean, I think they nailed it. Like, I don't think you need to get some crazy old school vintage tape delay or BBD, delay. I think you're spending a lot of money to get something you could just get digital,
yeah,
and it's so much more convenient. You get tap tempo presets. Um, so I think delay is one of those effects that just delay and reverb. I think there's no reason not to have a digital one.
yeah,
At least once you get away from like real spring reverb, shimmer reverb is one of my favorite effects ever, and that's there's no way to get that without being digital.
yeah. That is
Um,
true. So like the tone journey that I've been, I got that Jam delay Llama Extreme,
mhm.
and it's just like a super PT 2399, analog delay. But then they put their crazy stuff on top of it, and it's still all analog. So they're using uh like the light strobe, like the vibes and stuff like that. It's pretty much like having the Ripley's fall inside their delay llama. So it's nuts. Like I could take the delay out and actually have like a Ripley's fall with the extra modulations that are in it, or I
Mhm.
could literally just throw that into the delay. So that is one crazy box to be an analog pedal. The only thing digital about it, I would say, is the presets. So the
Yeah,
banks that are in it, but it's
that's one of the things a lot of companies are doing now that I love is doing like analog effects but using digital brains,
mhm.
for lack of a better way to put it. So like all your signal path is analog, but then all the controls are digital, and it just opens up this whole world of like, from multiple presets to tap tempo to just being able to mix stuff the way you would not normally be able to mix it in an all analog situation. And like I know Matthews Effects does a lot of that stuff.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think what the other one of the big like pioneers of that they make pretty expensive pedals, but they're all great. I'm blanking out on the name now, but there's a few different like awesome companies that are basically kind of going with that route where they're doing all analog
Chase
effects.
Bliss does that.
Yeah, that's actually what I
Yeah,
was thinking of. Chase Bliss
yeah,
Audio.
yeah. Because
Their
Jam.
pedals are pretty expensive, but man, are they you get what you pay for.
Oh yeah, that's
Um,
all in the R&D you're paying into, I would
yeah.
say. But a lot of things like that, like delays, is really what got me started on effects. And I would say probably one of the best tape delays out there is either the T-Rex replicator. I think it's T-Rex replicator. Yeah, it's actually got a tape in it, but it has
Hmm.
tap tempo, and also the full tone SS, and it has the same cartridge almost. And that's really kind of going down that rabbit hole of having the real tape warble without going and spending thousands of dollars on a working Echoplex,
Hmm.
that's what everybody's trying to replicate. I mean, Echoplex is probably the best tape delay ever made. I mean, with the tape heads and everything. But
Yeah. Once you get past the fact that it's the size of a guitar,
yeah,
it's not exactly convenient for live use. It definitely sounds great, and it's a great studio tool for sure.
yeah,
Um, I am all about stuff that you can use in the studio and live though, and again, I'm live from the living room, so I don't know why I'm that picky about it, but I like being able to make that transition from a cool studio piece into a piece of usable gear in a real world scenario.
yeah,
uh I think I mean, it's great when you have awesome studio pieces and you can make cool art in the studio, but to me it loses a little something when you can't reproduce that live. Like that was one of the big things for like Led Zeppelin. They had some great stuff in the studio, and then when they got live, not that they weren't good live either, but a lot of their songs lacked, you know, a lot of the studio finesse because Jimmy Page would record 5 guitar tracks for a song, and like and use a ton of like cool studio tricks to get awesome sounds. And then when they would play live, he would just be on stage like a hammered maniac, playing only one guitar. And Bonham, or not Bonham, John Paul Jones had to pick up a lot of the slack.
Oh yeah, he had to play the organ and synths and everything behind him.
Everything all at once, playing bass and keys at the same time. Is silliness.
And he didn't even get the limelight until maybe like them Crooked Vultures or something. Maybe, I don't know. But
that, by the way, is an amazing record. I love that.
Oh yes, I do too. Josh Homme and Dave.
I'm a huge Joshua Homme fan. And then that them Crooked Vultures, it's really, to me, it's just basically the most accessible Queens of the Stone Age record ever recorded.
With the best really, backline.
Where like it smacks of everything Joshua Homme, but it's a little more streamlined and like radio friendly, and not that I have anything, like I love all those Queens of the Stone Age records too, but that them Crooked Vultures record, it's so easy to listen to. It's not, you don't have to put in any work or like sit through weird filler tracks and like weird sound effects, and it's such a solid, great record. And Joshua Homme, if you're listening, you should get one of my pedals. I would love to have you play it.
Yeah, that would be awesome. You go and do you listen to any Raconteurs or Jack White Stripes kind of stuff too?
No, not really. I mean, there's I don't know, I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with Jack White. He is a very good guitar player, and not a huge fan of his attitude.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, if they'd separate the music from their agendas, and a lot of people would just enjoy the music. That's kind of what I do. I did that with wrestling as a kid. Like there was always like the fall guy or the heel, as they called it. And it was a full act for those, but people like hated those people in real life. And I was like, the guy's just acting a part. Like, why do you hate him? So I enjoyed the whole skit of watching or listening to music. So I just enjoy stuff. I don't try to sit there and politicize it or anything like that. But
yeah, I do too. But I feel like there's just a little part of me that every time Jack White's like, I hate the Black Keys because they stole my sound, I'm like, dude, you didn't invent anything.
I don't know if anybody invented any of that, to be honest.
Well, but the thing is,
like a 60s Motown funk / Hendrix acid,
right? But I think Jack White thinks he invented it. It's the problem.
Yeah, well, he's gonna take that up with Jimmy a bit, and then
well, Jimmy's not here, but he likes to argue about Dan Arbach, and I'm just like, dude, there's room in the world for both of you. It's okay. You know?
It's kind of the Clint Eastwood, make my day kind of thing. I think they had to take shots at each other, but I think that's what makes it interesting. But I'm not one for sitting there and choosing sides. I just enjoy the sounds, man. Like that was always my thing. But we talked, let's see, boutique versus standard equipment. So you have you're more of a modder. I don't think there is standard equipment for you guys.
I mean, I have a couple standard pedals on my board, but mostly there are weird, silly ones that I've modded over the years, or had modded. Like I said, I mean, most of my board has been modded by Brian at Kinetone. But I'm really just a whatever the tool for the job is kind of guy. So like
toolbox.
If what you want is a sound you can't get from a Boss pedal, then get some weird boutique thing. But if you want a tube screamer, man, just get a tube screamer.
Would you be afraid to mod like a boutique pedal or a boutique amp or anything?
Well, I wouldn't get involved with a boutique amp just because I don't really do amp work like that. Not that it's not something I would never get into, but at this point I'm not into it, and I'd be too afraid to kill myself, to be honest, with an amp.
Oh geez, because something made a boo-boo.
Right, working on an amp is a little more dangerous than working on a pedal by a lot of volts and a lot of amps. So I wouldn't really get into the amp world, but I wouldn't be afraid to mod a boutique pedal. I just don't know that it's necessary. A lot of times I feel like if you get a boutique pedal, they're kind of built to be that thing that it's a modded version of some standard pedal.
Like a niche. Like have a niche pedal,
and I don't really have a ton of boutique pedals on my board. Mostly I have like kind of standard pedals that are either stock or modded. I don't know. I don't think I really do have any boutique pedals on my board, come to think of it, other than like my own.
So that makes you probably more on the standard realm, I would say. And being a modder is the tool in the toolbox, like you said. So
like I mean, I have a Mutron Microtron 4. That's, I guess, I don't know, do they count as boutique?
I think that's boutique to me. I mean, I used
So
to
I
be a
have
budget guy, and then I was just like, screw it. I will just save up the money to get like the tool I need to sound like
Mhm.
such and such or whatever. So and still kind of a budget guy, but I like doing trades now that I have some bargaining chips,
Mhm.
as I call them. So but yeah, the Bootron should be around either vintage or boutique, but I mean,
I
what
mean,
is
mine's
boutique?
definitely right. Mine's definitely a modern one. I had actually the pedal that I traded to get that cabinet I was talking about was a Univox, officially licensed Mutron 3 clone. Like, they bought the rights basically from Mutron to make it in Japan, and it was cool. It had a great sound, but it had the world's worst buffer. So when you weren't using it, like if you just had it bypassed, it just turned your guitar to trash.
Yeah.
Um,
So it was like a
and
vacuum for guitar tone.
Right, it was just awful. And I've played a couple of real Mutrons over the years too, and they all had the same problem because it was, same design. Where like when you were using the effect, it was butter, it was gravy. But when you turned it off, it just sounded bad.
So you
But
either had to build a buffer in it, I guess, or maybe you
I
change.
you had to like change it to true bypass or something. But like
Yeah.
that's the new ones, the new Mutrons are true bypass, and they don't have that awful buffer, so it's a great pedal, and they're not even half the size of the old ones. So, and they run on a regular power supply. It's everything you could want in that
Yeah.
pedal. So I love that one. I use it pretty regularly.
Cool,
Um,
man. That's boutique versus standard. Let's try the and I'm gonna ask you this, knowing what you have, but are you more of a minimalist or a big board kind of guy?
I would like to think I'm both. I just have not gotten around to making my minimalist board yet because I haven't had time. But ideally I'd like to have the big stupid board, which is what I have right now, and then
The
just a little.
spaceship.
It is. I think it's something like 65 or 70 pounds, and it's ridiculous. But boy, does it offer a lot of toys to play with.
You had two DL4s on board.
I had three.
Three,
Three.
yeah, three at one time. But most of the
Um,
pics that we have is showing your two
uh,
DL4s, and that's the first thing everybody says is like, you have two of them.
yeah, and I'm like, no, there's three. The funny thing, that giant board really, it was all built around one idea, and then everything kind of came around that, and that was that I wanted to have a pitch shifter that I could run through a delay and have a completely dry signal, and then only the delay was pitch shifted, which meant I had to make the move to stereo to get what I really wanted. Because there are a couple delay pedals that do pitch shifting, but none of them did quite what I wanted. So I had that giant Hog 2 by Electro Harmonics, which is just the most space-consuming, awesome pitch shifter pedal ever made. It's wildly inconvenient because it's a huge power hog, and it's huge, and it uses an expression pedal, which makes it even bigger.
Yeah.
But it does a lot of cool things that a lot of other pedals don't do. And so that's kind of how it all started, with me having like a wet dry signal on that, and then making the wet the delayed signal. And then it all snowballed from there. To be honest, I was just like, well, if I'm getting big, I might as well go all the way. Why half-ass it?
So are you doing that with the DL4? Are you making like some kind of draw through where it's going back and catching the pitch, or or am I
So
speaking
that's
ahead of your mods?
No, the mods had nothing to do with that. The mods are totally just utilitarian. But that's a big part of why there was so many DL4s, because the first one was running it's just mono, where the signal splits to stereo at the hog, and I was sending just the wet hog signal into one of the DL4s by itself, and then just turning the wet all, like, the mix all the way to wet, so that there's no dry signal coming out of that one, and then the dry signal from the hog was going to the other DL4s, and then eventually it all comes back together into like, well, never really comes back together because it goes to 2 amps, but that's really how that whole giant board started, with just that idea that I wanted to play a note, hear it, and then hear the pitch shifted delay. Which I don't know, somewhere I have some demos that I could post in the signal path, and people could hear what I'm talking about, because it's one of my favorite things to do ever, and that's what that whole board is built around.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to circle back. They don't have like a memory feature on the group. I would love to have that, where a year ago this is what we were talking about or something. I'm constantly like digging my history, just like, oh, that's what we did. So it's hard to believe it's been a year already with doing TSP, but that's kind of where I'm at with it, is trying to keep up with everybody. I used to memorize what was on everybody's boards, but we're starting to grow so much that I can't remember who did what almost at this point, and I'm having to write it down on paper. And I've, it's making me older a little bit and starting to get gray hairs, but I really enjoy all the content and everything. That's why I encourage everybody to do something. But kind of like what I always said, we have from the pros to the regular Joes always show up, and um, honestly, the small builders, I try to make sure I make space for them and so they can get their name out there. But I'm not a large platform with TSP. I'm not even a medium platform. I think we really went for the quality and the mentorship. So I know you have a lot of connections with Brian at Kennetone and everything like that. Is he always been like a mentor for you, or?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I actually got involved with him because I wanted my DL4s modded, and when I Googled, who does them, basically I landed on him because I was reading about some of the other people, and he's so I went with just for the features he does, his price point, and that kind of just turned into its own friendship because he's such a cool guy and his work is so good. And he's definitely been very helpful for me in terms of like bouncing ideas off of him when I wanted to learn stuff, or he's just been super cool and done a ton of pedal work for me. But that is definitely how I found him, was the DL4 mods, and then that also snowballed. I mean, at one point I had, I think, 11 pedals on my board that were all modded by him.
Wow.
If not 11 on my board, definitely 11 that I got from him, and like some were on the board for a while and then came off when I replaced them with something else that I got from him. Like he did a DS1 for me that I love, but I just replaced it with the blues driver that he did for me because it's even better.
Oh wow.
So definitely he's an awesome guy. I'm a big fan of Wilhelm Underwood. He's got a company called Different Noises.
Yeah, it was Underwood Noises there for a while. And
yeah, he changed the name because he was having some issues with like a lot of his posts getting like flagged for no reason, and I actually really like the whole Different Noises thing anyway, because I feel like it really speaks to what he's doing as a builder, because
he's on the weird realm for sure. That's his favorite niche area. Like he would use an answer machine from a phone and turn it into a delay or some kind of talk box or something. He's just taking what's there sitting around a pawn shop or a thrift store and turning it into a pedal, which is crazy.
Yeah, I think me and him have very similar goals as builders, but very different approaches to that goal. Where like my goal was to find something new and different that I wanted to do, but I got laser focused on like the octave and the fuzz thing, and read everything I could possibly read about that one subject, and took a very long time to develop one circuit and like really flesh it out. And his approach was, well, I want to learn everything I could learn about circuitry in general and build a million circuits just in that pursuit of knowledge, basically. Which he has definitely built way more circuits than me. And there's just a couple real gems in there, and I think me and him are actually going to start working together, because I think it's going to be a good collaboration because of
nice.
His desire to try all kinds of different new things, and my laser focus onto one idea. And I think we're going to bounce ideas off each other and send things back and forth, and maybe work on our own little subline of me and him working together. We tossed out the idea of calling it Out There Effects.
Oh wow.
Or to be like Different Noises and CMC Effects presents Out There Effects. So I actually just got a pedal from him the other day that I think is awesome, and I'm gonna tinker with that circuit a little bit and try to make it even more awesome. And I bounced a couple ideas off of him that he's already working on, like that were my ideas, but he's got more of the know-how to make it happen, because he has diversified his knowledge so much more than me. So that's going to be a good time, and I'm definitely looking forward to working with him.
Yeah, so like with what he was talking about is called circuit bending. And I guess that's reverse engineering something and then taking it and modifying it to go into chaos or something. But that's kind of how he described it to me. But I posted something. I think it was a toy guitar, and he was like, "Yeah, I would love to circuit bend that." And I got thinking about it. It is a chip in there, so that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, the circuit bending thing kind of at its core is taking an existing pedaler circuit and just kind of see what happens if you touch 2 points together that aren't supposed to touch together. Which, I mean, that's definitely its own level of fun. He definitely has, I'm sure, done a ton of that, but he's also like so far beyond that. And like his big thing is just how can I take this thing that is designed to do one thing and make it do another. Like the pedal I just got from him is built around like the PT2399 delay chip, and it definitely does do like delay and reverb, but he turned it into like a fuzz pedal basically. But it's this weird delay reverb fuzz, and I love it. It's so awesome. You know, I posted a couple quick little demos.
Yeah, I saw that, and that's always a fun way to do fuzz, is taking something that shouldn't be and making a happy little accident with it. So those are really cool. So with I guess my standard questions are over, but I would like to ask you, what are your like major influences as far as like music and gear and that kind of thing?
I mean, definitely, maybe not as much these days, but I will say, especially when I was younger and in my like teens and 20s, I was a huge Tool fan. And I still am, definitely, but not to the degree it was back then. And so a lot of my old tone journey, if you will, was definitely chasing that. Like I still think Adam Jones has some of the best guitar tones for that kind of music. Just so like raw and visceral and crunchy. And so I will say, even to this day, a lot of when I play guitar, if I go high gain, my goal is to sound like Adam Jones's guitar because it's awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of sustains and drop notes, alternate tunings, and you know, I would say that even with Danny Carey and Justin Chancellor, I always tried to, when I played bass, I was trying to chase that like the wall bass, and you know, getting a Sans amp DI, and try to get that grind that Justin had with his tones. And that was kind of my tone journey a bit with Tool. I didn't really chase the Adam Jones thing because I was really over the I would say I was more in the new metal era, and that's not exactly new metal. I would say Tool's definitely not.
No, I think they were one of those
rock.
bands. Yeah, they were one of those bands that influenced a lot of new metal bands, but definitely I would never lump them into that category. And definitely not in terms of guitar tone, because the new metal guitar tone has not ever been my thing. Well, not, I'm gonna say not ever. I guess
instant new metal is a PRS into a Mezzo Boogie dual rack. Instant new metal tone.
Right, so you mean it's not that Boss new metal pedal?
No.
Do you ever know the Boss metal, the metal core? That's what it was.
It was the metal core, the Smash Box by Ibanez, the rectifier, the rectifying thing grinder by DOD that was like a gray pedal that, or anything called tread plate was called that at some point. But yeah, that's what I did. So my first pedal was the Zoom 505, and that's what I was trying to replicate. It was either Metallica or some kind of new metal, and that was
yes, you've gone on at length about your love for the Zoom 505.
And it's all digital, which I know a lot of people hate on it. But what was your like first pedal? I would say
my absolute first pedal was a Rat from the 90s that my brother gave me, and I hated it because I was a 16-year-old kid with no taste. And I had it for a while and then eventually gave it back to him. But that was definitely my first pedal. First pedal I bought with my own money. Even worse, I was definitely an MT2, a Metal Zone, which I actually have a Kinetone modded one now that I
nice.
And as magic as Brian's Touch is, it's still not a pedal for me. I bought it like because I found it at a Guitar Center for like way cheap, and then bought it specifically to send it to Brian because I was like, if anybody can make this pedal a pedal I want to play, it's Brian. And he sent it back, and it's cool, and it's definitely better than it was, but it's still not quite my flavor. And I'm sure sooner or later it'll end up at my Reverb store. I might see if those prices start to inflate though, since he's gonna not be really doing pedals for a while.
Yeah, definitely
gonna the prices up.
I could definitely respect his decision to take care of his family. To me, that's the reason why we work and have a job, a 9 to 5 and that kind of thing. And that's utmost importance. For me, I've been trying to reduce my screen time, spend time with the family. I know I've started doing the podcast, still trying to keep the challenges up and that kind of thing. But, you know, mad respect for Brian to, you know, show love for his family, and time is our true currency is what I'm getting with that. So, you know, mad respect for him, and definitely going to miss him. I'm sure he's going to be around with our shenanigans, but, you know, he was there, meme lord there for a good while, and always enjoyed his content along with all of his great builds and everything, and made sure that, you know, we shared as much as we possibly could at TSP. But with the rat being the first one, every rat that I've come across, I've always tried to share with Brian. I was like, hey, like what serial range is this? Is it LM308? Like asking like getting the skinny to it. But he was always a great resource and a great guy all around. And I appreciated all his work.
Definitely. And his rat mods are the truth. I just say that about him. I definitely still have a rat that he did on my board. It's got the clean blend. I think that should be a feature on pretty much every pedal ever. Being able to blend your clean signal back in. It's awesome. You don't have to use it all the time, but sometimes it's nice to just get that little bit dialed in. Or even I like to go like super high gain with the rat, but then dial it to almost clean, like almost all the way clean. That way you just get like that little bit of super high gain in the background below your clean signal. I think that's a really great feature. But his rat mods are amazing, and I think that's probably one of the ones he'll still do occasionally and just throw one up on Reverb. And I highly encourage anyone who sees one of those pop up to buy it because
absolutely.
It's awesome.
Well, Phil, I think we're nearing our hour, man, and I really enjoyed this. I'm gonna give you some space here. Is there anything you want to plug away today while you're visiting with us on TSP Podcast?
I mean, I kind of plugged the Tom a bit. I'm hoping to have another circuit coming out this month. Not this month, this year. My next big pedal called the Buzz Killer. It's going to be like a very synthy. The goal is to kind of do that vintage video game sound, but I think better than what's out there and a little more versatile and musical than what's out there. Much less glitchy, like just the right amount of glitch, because you want there to be. Always going to be a little bit of that. So hopefully I'll be dropping that, in some point this year. Thomas actually has the prototype for that, but I'll be getting that back soon. And my boy Pat over at Bright Noises, he's going to be doing the art for me again because I love his artwork, and I always like to promote him too, and anybody else cool that I work with. Somewhere I have, it's in a box. I don't want to pull it out to go through all that right now. But his pedal, the glitching hour, is really awesome.
Yeah,
it's like a square wave fuzz with some octave stuff in it, and that's a really dope pedal. Definitely pimp Underwood Bright. No, not Underwood. Different Noises again. I can't say enough nice things about Wilhelm. He's an awesome guy and a very weird and interesting builder, and not really have much to promote as far as myself. I mean, buy a Tom, everybody. They're expensive, but they're cool.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in that little box too. But dude, I was like, oh my god, Andy from like Pro Gears like showing off the Tom, and I was like, I remember when this was just a Vero board. Like I was just like celebrating that myself, like making sure that got shared as much as possible. But
Andy's demos on that. Is definitely killer. I mean, he doesn't do bad demos. Everything he does is good, which is why I reached out to him to do a demo, because if you're gonna get one done, might as well get it done right.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I really love his ability to play to the pedal. One of the things that makes me more annoyed than anything is when you see somebody demoing a pedal, and no matter what the pedal is, they're playing like blues, dad rock. And I'm like, but it's a death metal fuzz pedal. Why are you playing blues riffs? Or and Andy really has a gift for finding what makes a pedal awesome and playing up its strengths, and that's why I reached out to him to do a demo, because he's just amazing.
Yeah, I think context helps a lot with demos, like you're saying, and that's another rabbit hole. But I know a lot of guys talk about recording. I can hear your strings like through recording and everything, but I've always created a space for the signal path that everybody can post something. Everybody doesn't have to be instantly great at guitar. Everybody has to start somewhere. And that's always been my shtick with it, is to make sure that we're harboring a good mentorship to others and not just say, hey, that sucks. I mean, there's no reason for that. I mean, honestly, let's try to build up each other, and everybody has. Go ahead.
Definitely. I mean, a big part of the reason that I got so into pedals is I've kind of jokingly always referred to myself as the world's okayest guitar player. I'm an okay guitar player. I'm maybe even the okayest, but I'm not amazing or great. And pedals make me a little more okay.
Yeah. Well, pedals are like ice cream. Everybody has their favorite flavor, and that's kind of the thing. I'm going to leave it at that. So it's been fun. I hope you liked your first podcast and was able to get you on this week. I really appreciate it, man. I really enjoyed this chat we had. I want to make sure we're encouraging everybody at the Signal Path. Remember, we're talking about gear and it's our mentorship. Try to help the next guy with their tone journey. That's the key. As always, this will be on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to that. I'm on Instagram and Facebook for the Signal Path, along with Phil here. You can ask us anything. We'll be able to help you. Don't forget, I got a Patreon that help subside some of the hosting costs that I'm occurring with now doing podcasting. Not out there begging for change. I'm just out there trying to share the hope and the love and joy of TSP. So just want to thank you, Phil, for coming on with us today. This has been fun. I think we'll have to have you back on again.
Yeah, definitely had a good time, and thanks for having me on, and we could definitely do this again sometime.
Yeah. We'll put you on the spot right before we get off.
No, boy.
What do you think our next challenge should be at TSP?
Well, I mean, I'm a little biased in this, but maybe octave effects.
Octave effects. I think we did the wah and envelope. We haven't done really an octave.
That was the one. The Get Weird challenge was kind of a really broad, encouraged like octaves and wahs and envelopes, but which I tried to incorporate actually both of those in mine. When I did mine, I did the octave with the envelope filter. But octaves. I don't think there's been an octave specific one, and I'd be interested to see what comes of it if we do that, just because there's so many.
So pitch, octave. What are the other keywords with that? Shape shifting.
I would probably try to limit it to just octave effects, because even just like, you can get it a vibrato, but that's more like a modulation thing, like to me, like that doesn't count.
That's a 6 setting. It's a huge, like, yeah, like
right. But yeah, I would say just between the world of analog and digital, there's already just so much to work with that I think just leaving it just to like octave effects, whether it's a tom or a pog or like I said, that I might even skip using my own pedals and use my hog, because I think that's the greatest octave pedal ever made. It does octaves, it does harmonies. I would say you can include harmonizers in the thing too.
Oh yeah, harmonizers. Yeah, that's why I said shape. Any pedals that do shape. Maybe some arpeggiators. Maybe would that?
I don't know. I will say I personally would not enter into the contest with a harmonizer, only because I'm not a good enough guitar player, like the intelligent harmonizers, I actually was playing with a Boss HR, whatever it is, one of their harmonizer pedals the other day at the local guitar shop. And the guy's like, so you think you're going to buy it? It's like, no, I'm not good enough. My theory isn't strong enough, to be honest. To use
because they got thirds, fourths, fifths, sevenths. Like there's all kinds of stuff.
And it's real easy to hit a bad note. And when you hit a bad note, it's a really bad note. But for those guys out there who can use one of those pedals and not sound like trash, more power to you, because it ain't me. I'll say that much.
Let's add that in the criteria. So pitch, harmonizers, octaves. We're gonna go crazy with it, and this is gonna air Wednesday, so we'll talk about that. And I'm gonna bounce that off the guys at TSP. So again, Phil, appreciate your time today. We're gonna jump off of here. And I want to make sure that you guys have an awesome week. All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Have a good one, Tom.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, guys.